Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that shoe too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello, welcome. Here's what you're going to learn on tonight's program. We've all seen companies screw up and people get hurt. But who do you trust to apologize? An AI system or a real human writing that apology? In about 10 minutes' time, we will dive into surprising new research on credibility crisis and the future of communication. Are you more likely to accept an AI apology if you believe a human wrote it? Probably you are. After that, it's all things pets on Vet Talk. We will cover unhinged pet sitter instructions. Have you ever had to look after someone's pet only to find they've written the most detailed, convoluted, or straight out bizarre instructions? We'll cover what some of people's most ridiculous demands are halfway through the hour. That's some of our lineup. Let's jump in. Have you ever had an odd dream? Are you an odd person? Well, our foreign correspondent from London, England, Tony Five, is both of those things, or has both of those things, or is and has one of each of those things. Tony, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, David. Yes, a very tired Tony Five from London. I've been having trouble sleeping, and last night, and the night before, and the night before that, some might say 3 nights in a row, I've had very visceral, very realistic dreams, and I've woken up and it's taken me like 2 or 3 hours to kind of get over it.
Interesting. Visceral, vivid, vivacious, vivisection. These are all V words that some of them apply.
Yeah.
I always find dreams so odd because whenever I bring them to my shrink, he is always like, you are all the characters in your dream. You know?
You said that to me before.
Yeah.
Am I my dog?
Because the dream, yes, if you dreamed about your dog, the dog is somehow some deep manifestation of you. That's at least my shrink's interpretation of my dreams.
Is that the Groupon shrink that you use, or is that a proper shrink?
I wish. Those monthly bills, man. Those monthly bills.
Wow.
Tell me about your dream. What happened?
So, like, the last couple of nights, I've dreamt. So I'm sort of early 40s, 43 plus 4.
You're in your early to mid to late 40s and 50s. We get it.
Correct. And I was dreaming about my first love, my first girlfriend who I started going out with when I was 16, 17 and ended when I was like 30. So like this is like a real formative part of my childhood, adolescence and sort of, early adulthood.
So you're her in that dream. We got it. So you're there with a more youthful, innocent, wet behind the ears. Your life is going in one direction. Maybe you're going to get married. That's what that represents, maybe, according to my shrink.
No, not at all. So basically, we were on a bouncy castle in a fairground. So are you saying I was
You are the bouncy council as well.
Right.
You're the bouncy castle.
Okay. So, and we were still together, but she had like another husband and I was getting annoyed because she had a husband. It really freaked me out. Now, I haven't, like, she's married
You're
now
the other
with
husband.
children. Yes. And she's got 2 children. So I am both the children.
Yeah, you're everyone. See, it doesn't always work. Anyway. Okay, so you're with your ex in a bouncy castle. Her current husband and children are also there.
Yeah, and I'm incredibly jealous. And I am not a jealous person. I don't really feel that emotion. I've never been jealous of things. So I feel this jealousy in my dream, and then I wake up from my dream, but I'm still within a dream. It's like Inception, David. I'm in the dream and I wake up from the dream, but I'm still asleep in the dream.
That's the worst. I hate when that happens. And it's like, will I ever wake up? Am I dreaming now? If that can happen in my dream, how do I know I'm not dreaming now? Could it be that you're jealous of like the stability of her life, of the family, of these kinds of elements?
It could be. I was thinking about our conversation when you went to Burning Man and you went with Miranda. And I thought it's such a lovely thing that you guys have together. You've got this thing that you share. You go, you have a great time together. It's this wonderful memory. And
I want you to come to this thing, Tony, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, so I was thinking that's nice, and I like that. I want that, and you sent some pictures of you guys all having a good time, and I really, really like that. And maybe that was on my mind as well. That was kind of playing on my mind as well, and I liked it. But yeah, having this, and I was in London, which is the areas that we used to spend our time growing up. I didn't have a car then, so we would go by public transport everywhere, and we would walk places, and some of the shops have changed and things like that. And I think I'm quite a sentimental person, and these sentimental things was like, oh wow, I never thought I'd be like that, but yeah, it sort of jumped at me.
It sounds like it's more about a desire for community. That marriage and that dream represents like a community, a culture between the husband and the wife and the kids that you feel like maybe you missed out on because, you and her broke up for whatever reason. I'm sure it was a good reason. But community can be built. Like I've gone through periods in my life where I felt like I've had zero community, and you have to like work at it a little bit day by day. Now, I'm not saying you don't have community there in London. Where you live. You do. You've got community with your mother. You volunteer a lot of places. You've got friends. You've got family. But, a subconscious desire for more, given that only just a few months ago you felt probably some of the most isolated you felt in a long time, shouldn't surprise you, that and it's your subconscious kind of working it out,
I guess that's right as well, because I've got Frank, obviously, and my dog is kind of my world at the moment, right? And I spend a lot of time with him, and he gives me the company. He doesn't answer back. We both like dog food. We both poop in the streets. It's a wonderful, wonderful community we have together. And having a dog is this amazing thing. It opens up your world to dog people, David. Do you know what dog people are?
Yes, I do. My brother is a dog nut, and I feel like, half his life is the people at the dog park.
Oh, they are amazing. This community of dog people. David, it feels like, you know what it feels like? It feels like I'm in a secret club that only dog people know. So we all smell of like kibble and dog poop bags.
This happened to me in the smallest way, but it was very striking when I got a motorcycle. Whenever you ride your motorbike on the streets, every other motorcycle driver kind of gives you this little wave. It's like the, hey, you're on a bike, I'm on a bike wave. And all of a sudden, you're like a member of this weird little club. And if you park your bike outside of a restaurant or a shop and someone else has a bike, you definitely will strike up a conversation. It's just the smallest, stupidest thing. But it was like, I wasn't expecting it. And boom, you're in this little community club. And I imagine it's very much the same thing when you have a dog and you take it to the park.
Forget about a dog, David. When I'm in small English provincial villages and I see another black guy, there is some sort of psychic connection, my friend. I must tell you, I don't know how it works, but there is like, we can sense each other round corners. We turn the corner, we make eye contact. There's a slight nod, but we can both identify with it. It is incredible, my friend.
When I was in high school, there was two gay dudes in my class, and they dated for a minute. And I recently in Toronto ran into one of them, and we started catching up, mentioning all the people we'd known from high school and stuff. Somehow this other gay dude came up, and my friend was like, oh, I hate that guy. And I'm like, then why did you date? And he's like, we were the only ones in high school. We had to date. Like, we were best friends, but we couldn't stand each other. Only when we became adults and we met like other gay people out in the world did we realize we hate each other. And I imagine it's just like that, like being in a small town, seeing another black person. It's like, well, we have to be friends even if I can't stand you.
Absolutely. So in provincial, so I'm not talking about London, which is a metropolis, but I'm talking about the small little hamlets, the small little villages where there might be one or two black people, and then they have children and they go to school. They're almost pushed together because it's a really, really odd thing. But yeah, I mean, dog people and black people, that's my community, David. David, you have solved my problem.
I just mean, I think it's your subconscious working out a long period of feeling like you didn't have community to transitioning back into normal life where you're rebuilding it. That's probably what's going on with your dream, Tony. Thanks for sharing that. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, my friend. Yeah, maybe we can go together and I can get you into the black people community. If I nod and maybe put my arm around you, maybe they will nod at you. Maybe it's like that. We can just join together. And if we have a dog.
And then I'll bring you to synagogue with a motorcycle and a dog. Jewish motorcycle owner, black dog owner, finds community. That's basically it.
It's basically a Reddit thread.
After the break, suppose a company's in crisis mode. Customers get really sick because of their products. Reputations are on the line. The company apologizes. Would you accept that apology more if it was drafted by an AI or a human? Well, after the break, we'll explore what the research says on this when it comes to trust when it matters most.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Comcast is committed to bringing access to the internet to all Americans, including rural communities across the country, like Sussex County, Delaware.
We were being left behind. Everybody around us seemed to have internet, but we did not. High-speed internet is one of those good things that we needed to help us move our farming, our small businesses, our recreation forward.
Learn more about how we're bringing our next-generation network to more people across the country at comcastcorporation.com/investment in America.
Where intellectual honesty gets witness protection from social prosecution. The Last Show with David Cooper.
When a company faces a crisis, should its response come from stressed out humans or a machine, AI? Well, a new study shows that audiences still trust people more than AI. So why does human credibility matter? And what does it mean for the future of crisis communication? I'm here with someone who's interestingly done research in this area. He's the director of the Human Machine Communication Lab, and his name is Dr. Cameron Piercy. Cameron, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, David. Yeah, glad to join you. Thanks for having me on.
For someone unfamiliar with your study, in simple terms, you set out to test the Chunky Chocolate Company experiment. What is that?
Well, I mean, it could have been Tylenol in the 80s or whatever, or it could be the Exxon Mobil crisis. But we looked for something that students could relate to. So the Chunky Chocolate Company is just a chocolate bar company, and something's gone terribly wrong in the process. We're kind of vague about it with the participants, but we think, that's something they could relate to. And then we presented different kinds of different kinds of responses from the crisis. And so we presented them apologetic responses, where they would say, we're sorry, we did it. They would take ownership. Or empathetic, this is unfortunate that it's happened. It's affecting people in a negative way. Or just informational responses where they would say, this happened. And based on the classic research, we sort of expected a difference on those things. And then we either made it the byline a human or an AI system to see how they perceive the company and perceive the message.
So an example crisis might be that people got sick from this chocolate, or there was some damaging item in it that cut up people's mouths or esophaguses, or people died, like some corporate crisis. And then you set out to test whether people would want a response from an AI addressing it or a human addressing it.
That's right. But the responses, as you do in an experiment, they were exactly the same. It didn't matter whether it came from a human or an AI. We just changed the byline on the response to see how people would think about it.
You'd think that people would want a human apologizing and not a robot. Is that what you ended up finding?
That is what we ended up finding. So, I mean, this study comes at a time when large language models are coming out and they're capable of crafting like really empathetic responses. For instance, the other day, my friend messaged me and she's a teacher like I am. We teach at universities. She's like, I'm so sick of grading AI. And I thought, how do I respond to this? And I thought, you know what? It's on my computer. I've got ChatGPT right here. I said, ChatGPT, respond to this message empathetically, please. And so it wrote this really empathetic response. I pasted it in reply to my friend, and she was like, thanks. She felt heard.
Did you tell her that you used AI to generate the response?
After I sent the message, I did. And that's sort of the challenge of this experiment, right? Like companies aren't going to tell you that they're crafting messages with AI, but what if they did? And so we were asking, like, if you knew that it was generated by AI, how might you feel about it? And just like you suggested, people really did not like it.
Did your friend feel betrayed? It's such a weird example. I love it.
Well, I mean, it's a friend. We're editing a book called Teaming with Machines. So we think about AI a lot together.
Okay.
But yeah, she thought it was funny in the end. I mean, it's frustrating. AI is really capable and it really can write college students' papers, but they don't have the same voice or the human behind the message. And so with the crisis response, with this chunky chocolate response, not having the human on the back end was kind of offensive to people. It made about an 8% difference between whether it was a human-authored message or an AI-authored message.
And did who authored it mattered more than the contents of this apology, whether it was apologetic or sympathetic or just informational? Was it the single biggest thing that made people either accept it or not accept it?
It wasn't just the single biggest thing. It was the only thing. We were shocked. The apology versus the sympathy versus the informational, it had no effect on the message at all. And this is despite like decades of research that suggests those different forms of messages are received differently. I think it almost blinded participants. When they saw AI, it had this overbearing effect on the way that they received the message. And 8% may not sound like a lot of difference, but imagine if you're a company and sales go down 8%. People are getting fired.
Yeah, and I don't love what this says about us. It basically says if you use AI in your writing, especially if it's something like an apology or something super important where you need to express sympathy, you should maybe lie and say that you didn't use AI. I mean, I'm not recommending that, but that seems to be like one takeaway from your findings.
Yeah, this is sort of a persistent finding that we're getting across studies is that we like to contrive these situations where people would actually disclose that they're using AI, but a lot of people would conceal it because they don't want other people, imagine the script you just wrote. Maybe it was written by AI, right? You Google me, you put in the information, you introduce me based on whatever AI told you, and it's right. But I'm not accusing you of anything here, David.
Well, clearly if I did it, I'm going to lie.
You're going to lie. Why
wouldn't
you lie? You need to maintain your credibility and your reputation.
But really what just happened in my mind is like, I can write my introductions for my guests using AI. Thank you for this idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of our experiments, we were like, what if people knew it's from AI? And what we find is that people are kind of offended by it. I think that's a moving target. I think as time goes on and we recognize what it's capable of, people might be kind of less offended and maybe even glad that you went the extra step to make the message better.
Well, let's talk about this idea of as time goes by. I imagine like in the 50s or 60s, if you had a math teacher and they found out that you did your homework using a calculator, they'd think you were a worse mathematician. Nowadays, no one would think that. Do you think a younger generation, or maybe like in 10 or 15 years when writing using AI is so common and everyone does it, and just the idea of writing without it would be left for like artistic reasons, maybe poetry or creative writing or whatever, do you think people will care less in the future?
Yeah, I mean, you've picked up on, there's a debate, an emerging debate among people like me who are studying this stuff. And I fall on the sort of optimistic side. I think it's definitely going to change the way that we do things, but we don't need what they call a moral panic about it, right? Like, yeah, it's going to change relationships. Yeah, it's going to change messages. Does it mean that the world's going to end and everything's on fire? No, it's on fire for totally different reasons than AI.
Yeah, well, I think academia is a place where things are going to dramatically shift. Like the undergrads can just generate their papers now. My goodness, I wish I had that in undergrad. I definitely wouldn't use it, though, because that would be cheating, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, on the instructional side, we're trying to build new systems that can accommodate AI. I mean, there's a guy at Twitter who said every time you build a wall, they build a higher ladder, the hackers. And in this case, if it comes to AI, like, yeah, students are going to be building a taller ladder, but we'll get through it together, And these students, like, when they get interviewed for jobs, the employer's like, hey, what's your proficiency with AI? So in academia, we've got to start thinking about how do we incorporate that into the future of what the workplace looks like.
It's so interesting that crisis communication for corporations, it's like a very specific example of how people perceive AI. It's got such wide implications about how people generally perceive AI. Why pick this one specific thing to kind of draw these big lessons from?
I mean, there's a couple reasons. Of course, I'm not a crisis PR person, although our lead author is on the team, and he took a class with me called Human Machine Communication. And so I was like, yeah, this sounds like a really interesting topic. And what he was thinking about is if you are having to respond to emerging challenges and you need to be agile on your feet, and you have this tool in AI that can help you craft a better message faster, of course, with human oversight, that's sort of the missing piece of the article. Of course, a human wouldn't post a crisis response without reviewing it or editing it. But of course, PR people are using that right now. It's already part of their practice. They're just not labeling the messages as generated by AI.
Because if they do, people will perceive them badly, which I guess is exactly what you've shown in your paper.
Yeah, that is exactly what we showed in the paper.
Well, Dr. Cameron Piercy is the director of the Human Machine Communication Lab. Cameron, I've enjoyed this chat. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Great talking with you, David. Thanks for having me on.
And no, I didn't generate my questions using AI, but mostly because I was just probably too stupid to do that. But it's a great idea, so thank you for it.
You're welcome.
Coming up next, divorce and pets. In most places, the courts treat pets based on how much they cost. That's right, if your cat cost $50 to adopt, that's all it's worth if you split up with your partner. Should things be this way, and how can you cover your bases with a pet prenup? That is what we'll explore in just a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
We're building a wall between bad radio and good radio. And it's called The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is the Court of Pet Talk or Vet Talk Law here with Dr. Cliff Redford. We are going to discuss what you should do before you get married in that prenup contract about your pooch or kitty or turtle or rabbit or snake. Cliff, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Welcome back.
Did I say your full name, Dr. Cliff Redford? I don't even know. I'm back from vacation. No. Broadcasting is like not riding a bike, okay? If you don't do it every day, you get rusty immediately.
It's just talking, David. That's all you do.
I know. Well, paid's a strong word. I mean, I do get paid. The show does make money. It's just how much is the question. Cliff, more and more we hear about court cases with pets ending up as a focal point. Most jurisdictions, provinces, states just treat the pet as property, and whatever you paid for it, like if it was a $50 adoption fee, that pet is worth $50. If we're going to split it between the two spouses who are divorcing, that's $25 a pop, which does not match to reality under any circumstances, does it?
It doesn't, and I'm gonna use every chance I get to get in a soundbite regarding my favorite TV show, Entourage. Maybe Doug Ellen is listening and wants to say hi. They had a line in that where Amanda, the agent, said, "My ex-husband is suing for custody over a Labradoodle. What kind of man does that?" Well, these days, every kind of man or woman wants to sue for custody of their pet. I mean, they're like our children. And that's where this story out of New York, your stomping grounds, comes out of. Do you guys, what happens if you guys split up, you and your partner? What happens to the old tomato can there?
Tomato, my kitty, will go to my girlfriend Miranda. That is a deal we made when we adopted it, which I thought was a great deal, because I'd never owned a pet. And I thought, okay, I like him. I'm going to love him, whatever. But, I don't want to deal with him. But now I'm like, he's basically holding us together. I kid, of course. But now I'm upset I made that agreement because I love him. I want joint custody.
Well, I mean, even if you don't want him, you could be like that lady in the Judgment of Solomon story where she just wants the baby out of spite. You're going to end up fighting for Tomato just so you can get the country home in the wherever your country home is.
She loves that cat more than me, although she won't admit it. And I don't even mind because she loves that cat so much. And the cat loves her more than me, I got to admit. Like when the cat wants to cuddle with someone, I'm always the second choice.
Yeah.
Having said all that, I know some jurisdictions, like obviously I'm not a lawyer. My qualifications for anything are at the idiot level, even broadcasting. But I think there are some jurisdictions that are making the laws a little more fair or a little bit more reflective of reality, that people love their pets and they're worth more than what they paid for their pets. Most don't.
Most don't. And so this, let's get to this story. This guy, James Sexton, a lawyer out of New York, a divorce lawyer, him and his business partner created this website, trustedprenup.com. And in it, they are offering free pet prenups to couples who adopt rescue pets. If you have a regular pet that's not from a rescue, you can pay what you think it's worth, and the money goes to a dog shelter, a cat shelter. And he's basically saying, look, animals aren't property anymore. They don't have this sort of financial value, and that's their only value. There needs to be a conversation about who gets the pet. And he started doing this because he talked about a scenario in his past where it was a couple, they were getting divorced. He was one of the lawyers, and they were fighting over the dog. And the judge basically said, if you guys can't figure this out, I'm going to sell the dog. We're going to figure out we're going to force you to sell the dog, and each of you gets 50%. So this judge was actually pulling a Judge Solomon. He was saying, I'm going to cut the baby in half, and each of you disputing mothers get it. I hope everyone knows what I'm talking about here.
I don't actually. What are you talking?
Are you kidding, right?
Like half the kingdom, basically?
No. So there is this story in the Bible where King Solomon was approached by two mothers, and they were fighting over who the baby boy belonged to. They both said, that's my son, and they could not figure it out. So the King Solomon said, all right, I am going to cut the baby in half, and each of you get half the baby. And the one woman said, no, don't do that. Give the baby to the other one. And the other one said, yeah, cut the baby in half. I'll take half. He obviously sided with the first one and said, you're clearly the mother. You get to have it.
Only in the Bible could you tell such a horrific, gross story, and then it's like you can just say it whenever you want. If I had just said that happened to a friend, that would be totally obscene and awful and disgusting and criminal.
Well, this is sort of what the guy was doing without actually cutting the dog in half. He was saying, we are going to force you to sell this dog. So this guy, James Sexton, this lawyer, is now sort of coming up with these prenups where there's a conversation about who is going to have. Are you going to have full custody? Are you going to have shared custody? How do you deal with veterinarian bills? I myself have actually been called almost into court regarding a patient of mine, a dog. This is about 15 years ago, and the parents were getting a divorce. And the woman was coming to me. Her lawyer had approached me and said, "Hey, my client is asking for custody of, let's say the dog's name is Buddy. We would like you to write a letter saying that you basically don't even know who this guy is." And I was able to write, and because I didn't embellish. I basically said, I've seen Buddy 10 times. 9 of it was with Mrs. Mr. was only there once. Mrs. seems to be the one paying the bill. Mrs. is the name. Her name is on as the primary caregiver. She was the one who brought Buddy in when Buddy was a puppy. Therefore, as a professional, all I can say is she's been involved in the veterinary care. It never went to court. I didn't have to go to court. I wish it did, because they were going to pay me something like $300 an hour to sit there and say, in my professional opinion, and I was all set to say, you can't handle the truth.
Wait, they were going to overpay you. They were going to overpay you for your time, and you basically were going to do nothing. Isn't that what being a veterinarian is?
100%. Yeah, it was, but I didn't have to stick my finger up a dog's butt or do anything like that.
And Cliff does that for medical reasons. Therefore, this program is educational and not obscene.
They get anal gland issues, right? It happens.
You get to say that word because you're a doctor, probably.
Anal gland issues. Anal
Back on topic here, you were almost going to testify. This lawyer's offering free pet prenups. I think that's what you need to do. If you enter into a marriage or a serious relationship, you need to cover your own bases in terms of pet ownership and custody if you split up, because most jurisdictions and courts haven't caught up yet.
Yeah, they're not. They're going to go, what? You're having an argument over what? And yeah, right now, unfortunately, in most jurisdictions, pets are considered chattel. So ownership, they have property, which also means if I screw up as a veterinarian, I can be like, well, you bought that dog for $1,500 10 years ago. If you amortize that money, it's only worth $150. Here's the $150 for me screwing up. Obviously, that's not the case. I'd never screw up, and I would never pay $150 if I did. But it's an issue. People need to have a conversation. But in the end, I think in most cases, and that's what Jane Sexton, this lawyer at trustedprenup.com, talks about, is that the judges are able to determine who could best care for this pet, much like they determine that with children. They sort of look at your scheduling. They look at how you're going to be able to how often you'll be able to get home to let them out of their crates or change the kitty litter. Cats are so much easier. But people, angry spouses, ex-spouses, could use that dog, cat, bunny, snake, whatever, against you as a ways to get higher value in some other disagreement. So I believe in prenups. Get a prenup.
All right, we're here with Dr. Cliff Redford, a veterinarian. It's Vet Talk or Pet Talk. We don't know what the name of this little segment we do here is. When we come back, I'm really excited to cover this one. Your bonkers instructions that you've given to a pet sitter. When I travel, I have a pet sitter stay with my cat. I'm sure on my list there's some bonkers instructions. We'll go over mine and people's on the internets and discuss how ridiculous people can get when they leave instructions for a sitter. We'll be back.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels and music are made for each other. They share a rhythm in the craft of making something timeless, while being a part of legendary nights. From backyard jams to sold-out arenas, there's a song in every toast. Please drink responsibly. Responsibility.org. Jack Daniels and Old No. 7 are registered trademarks. Tennessee whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Jack Daniel Distillery, Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Cooper's Law tells us that the complexity of a relationship is inversely proportional to its explanation. You're listening to The Last Show with David Cooper.
Ooh, I'm excited for this one here with Dr. Cliff Redford, a veterinarian. I'm really great at broadcasting. I told you, when you go on vacation and you come back to radio, it's not like riding a bike. You need to be doing it every day. A veterinarian, and we are going to discuss unhinged pet sitter instructions that people leave for their sitters when they travel. Am I guilty of this? Are you guilty of this? And Cliff, what are some of the wildest things you've seen that people leave as care instructions for their pets? Cliff, welcome back, my friend.
Welcome back. And I should say, we should just name this segment Pet Talk or Vet Talk. Let's just embrace the ambiguity of it.
I don't know about that. I mean, it could work.
We're still unsure about how unsure we're going to be.
Isn't it a fun little joke we do where we don't know the name of what we do while we do it? I don't know. Okay. All right. Let's go over this list that we found online. And, well, first of all, what kind of wild instructions do people leave for their pets, even when they leave them in your care and you're rolling your eyes and you're thinking, no, Fufu doesn't need a paw massage every 15 minutes or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, with us, the biggest one, and this isn't so crazy, but medically speaking, it annoys me, is when a patient stays, overnight, they've had surgery, et cetera, and the animal is morbidly obese, not just regularly obese, morbidly obese. And they'll say, look, Charlie won't eat, kibble. He won't eat this, he won't eat that. So here's a giant Tupperware of the food I have cooked for him, which smells amazing and is probably better cooking and better food than I get. And I'm married to a Greek woman, so I get really good food. And then, of course, I'm not going to feed Charlie this stuff. I'm going to be enabling his morbid obesity. And I just put regular food in front of him, and within 2 minutes, he starts eating. And I will tell them, I'll say, Charlie knows how to eat. He's clearly not starving. He's got some fat he can use as energy. And that's exactly how I put it. I'm very clear to people. And they say, no, at our home, he refuses to eat anything but this yummy food. But this sort of article, request for funny stories, request for clickbaity stories was online. And it was basically them asking for people to comment on some of the crazy instructions they've given. I've heard of things like our dog doesn't like singing. And it's maybe the owners suck at singing. Maybe they're out of tune and the dog doesn't like it. But if you actually played a good tune, they would be okay. And then another one was our cat likes to be spun on the ground. I mean, that's just regular play. That's fine.
Classic.
But I mean, we've had like requests for it's got to be on this TV channel. Or else they get upset and they start chewing holes in the couch if it's not, they don't get to watch their Days of Our Lives or something like that. Yeah, there's a lot of quirky ones. What do you have for Tomato?
Well, for my cat, I don't think they're that weird, but you have to mix water in with his wet food because he refuses to drink water from a fountain, from a bowl, from a running tap, and he'll have urine issues. We're really worried he's going to jump out the window, so you're not allowed to open the windows, even if you fill the apartment with smoke because you cook something on the stove. He likes to ride around on your shoulders. We have on our cat sitting instructions.
All right.
He's not allowed in the laundry closet.
Why not? Do you eat the Tide Pods?
He does not eat the Tide Pods, but there's just a lot of stuff in there that he could get into. He really likes eating plastic. He eats the plastic and then he throws up. I guess we're not as crazy as I thought we were.
No, these ones are pretty normal. I read one where they're saying, when you come home to my house, this is like dog sitting and house sitting. And when Rover the dog greets you at the front door with a very specific woof, if you don't woof back to him, he will not let you in the house. I'm like, he's got a security password. What's the password, man? You don't get in unless you say the safety word or whatever the password is. And then apparently if you do woof, he then does a couple of laps around the living room kitchen and then he lets you in.
This is like a secret fraternity handshake, basically, but in dog form.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's weird. I have had people say, hey, we have to leave the lid up on our toilet. And because the cat or dog likes to drink out of the toilet, and that's the only way they're going to get water.
Delicious.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Look, it's probably cleaner water, unfortunately, than in some third world countries. So, when the dog and cats, they lick things they shouldn't. So, lick body parts they shouldn't. So, it's, whatever. Toilet water's fine. But I mean, those are all medical reasons. So, I support most of those. I support the things that you request for Tomato. We don't want him getting urinary crystals. He needs to hydrate.
I agree. Some of the ones from this list that we're going through are a cat needs to be hand-fed her breakfast, but she's good to eat lunch and dinner on her own.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's one where that cat has trained them. We get that with dogs as well. So whatever. I would just let the cat go hungry, but okay.
Another one is don't make eye contact with my monster cat. I mean, that makes sense. Eye contact in the animal kingdom. I guess we belong to the animal kingdom, but you know what I mean. Eye contact amongst wild animals means something very different than with us. It's a very nice thing we can do, or a very mean thing. I guess it depends on context. But eye contact with like a monkey or something, that means it's go time, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And cats and dogs could consider it they consider it sort of a dominance move. And they're either going to drop their gaze and say uncle, or they're going to attack your face like it sounds like this monster cat does. So those are just instructions to keep the pet sitter safe.
Let's go to this last story. People who adopt dogs, they put them on their social media for clout. And that's the word that young people describe social media behavior these days. Oh, you're just sharing that on Instagram for clout. I don't even know what it means, but I get it. Like people who make videos online, they want to pooch, they want to share an adoption story. And then as soon as the views and the likes go down, or they realize they're stuck with an animal who's no longer a puppy or cute or can get them social media clout, they abandon them. Seems to be happening a lot.
Yeah, and what's happening specifically is over the last couple of years, the increase in large dogs at shelters has increased by 16%. And one of the things they blame is these people on social media, let's say it's Instagram, again, chasing that clout and showing, sometimes in their case, dogs that they're caring for very, very well, like a Belgian Malinois, this John Wick dog, or Selena Gomez has a couple of Belgian Malinois that are basically her security detail at her house. Now, Belgian Malinois are gorgeous and super intelligent, but they are high-level super athletes, super working dogs that require immense work and immense time demands and immense training. So these people, these regular Joes and Jills, see Selena Gomez. They say, "Hey, we love the dogs that she has. Wouldn't it be cool to have these killer dogs that are going to protect us?" They go and they get a Belgian Malinois and they go, "Oh, this takes a lot of work. These guys need to be exercised 3 hours a day. How come my guy won't climb a 20-foot tree like the Belgian Malinois on the Instagram video that I liked and commented on did? I'm going to send it back and give it to the shelter." So that's what's actually happening is they're seeing these massive dogs, and it can happen. I mean, we've talked many times about French bulldogs being very popular but unhealthy breeds. People see only the good stuff on social media, and they don't realize the work that it takes behind, sort of behind the scenes. And they realize the grass isn't always greener. Sometimes the grass is being peed on or pooped on or ripped apart by these crazy, super athletic dogs, and they end up dumping them.
Cliff, thank you. I guess in short, don't adopt a pet that you're not willing to care for, especially if you don't know what that care entails. Cliff, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
After the break, things will get a little sexy as we have a sex communicator on the program. It is the end of summer. If you're on the dating scene, it might be time to settle down. It's called cuffing season. That's right, finding someone a little special to settle down with as things get cooler and it's time to get cozy. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show, and things are about to get spicy up next.
At New Balance, we believe if you run, you're a runner. However you choose to do it. Because when you're not worried about doing things the right way, you're free to discover your way. And that's what running is all about. Run your way at newbalance.com/running.
It's time for Sex Etc. with Samantha Bitty. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Summertime is about having fun, doing sex, enjoying yourself. Wintertime is about battening down the hatches, covering up the boards for the winter, finding someone to snuggle with. Cuffing season, as it were. We are joined by sexual health and consent educator Samantha Bitty to talk about what shifts happen for those who are dating in the fall. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. So nice to have you back.
Thank you. I was at the Burning Man Festival where famously a horrible windstorm came through and blew down one of the theme camps, of which there are thousands, but I know that you might have had a particular interest in it, that theme camp being the Orgy Dome, which, as I understand, is not even a dome. It's just a series of carports that you can purchase at Walmart, like carport tents. But yes, they blew down and destroyed that happening. So the dome was no more, as it were.
There was a pause on the orgies, at least in the formal orgy setting. But I suspect there were other multiples sexings that occurred regardless of the tenting structures.
I imagine that did happen. I myself, not being a cool guy, as it were, did not attend any of those. But yeah, I mean, it's an event with adults who like to do adult things, and I imagine it did happen there. I have friends who go to events like that. They always seem a little, I don't know. Everyone there seems like a nerd, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe being a sex nerd is a good thing.
as someone who is a part of various sex forward communities, there is like a sex nerdism. Like there is an overlap between sex parties and people who play D&D.
Exactly. Like when you see it on TV, these parties seem like everyone's super cool. But then when you go, it's like it's people who really like rules and are really nerdy and like to talk a lot about the thing that they're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just interesting the way it's portrayed in the media versus when people actually go to these things. I would describe them as sex nerds, and I'm not saying nerd in any kind of negative way.
I was gonna say like nerd is like hot, and as as we get older, I think the whole idea of being cool, um, hopefully like leaves us, and that like the most cool thing is being. This is so corny, wow, but like being yourself. Like I'm good with the things that are like objectively nerdy about me, and I still feel like I'm really cool and hot and sexy and fun. So
Well, if it's cool to not be cool, then I might be the coolest person you've ever met, Samantha.
very cool.
The summertime, if you're dating, it's a time for getting out there, meeting lots of people, enjoying yourself, being unattached, at least for some, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Summertime, we live in a 4-season climate. And so we only get a few hot, sunny months. And like scientifically, vitamin D makes people hornier.
Really?
And with hornierness, okay, there might be a little bit more of that feral energy of like, I don't want to be locked down. I don't want to be committed. I don't, people have different definitions of those things, but yeah, generally speaking, people are out and about. They're trying to smash. People are making eye contact for longer. Like we have uncuffing season that happens around April, May, right? You start seeing breakups in the street, all of that. And then now, as we get into the cooler months, we are what I would consider to be pre-cuffing season. We're not in cuffing season. This is pre-cuffing season.
And cuffing season is the time of year when we hunker down. We meet people. Being from Toronto and living in New York, I find the winter cold. If the summertime is about partying, being social, being out there, for me, the wintertime, the word I focus on the most is being cozy. There's nothing better than being in your bed with a great blanket and a great TV show in the winter. And I think those who are dating, it's very good to have someone to do that with, someone to settle down with, at least temporarily.
Yeah, I'm just, that companion where you're watching a show together. There is the snuggling, the gray months bring about a certain different kind of loneliness or like discomfort with aloneness. And just this idea of like, I can't be out here in these streets. I just want someone who's in relative proximity to me, who wants to do the snuggling in the pajamas and just that little bit more low lift comfort, as you said, cozy. I want to feel cozy. I don't want necessarily the thrill of the new. It's hibernation time.
So what changes occur? What do you recommend to people who are looking for that cozy pal in the fall?
My first piece of advice, which is very personal to me, is that I always miss pre-cuffing season. I'm still really focused on Major League Baseball. I'm polyamorous. So I'm like, dating people where it's like maybe they're not necessarily someone that I would snuggle up with or hunker down with or bunker, whatever you call it. And before I know it, it's like October, November, and the dating apps are dry. Everybody's is dry. It's just nobody is looking to date or hook up. All of my friends who are in those like committed partnerships are like not available either because they're all snuggled up with their booze. And I believe, like, I think it's important, especially for people who are non-monogamous, to identify that cuffing season impacts our community as well. And so my first piece of advice is to be proactive, acknowledge like that first temperature drop that we just experienced. I was like, I have to download a dating app and start, planting some seeds and seeing what can grow.
Is there a big difference these days, as someone who's not cool and not on apps, between like hookup apps, I imagine Field is one of them, and dating apps, which is more like Hinge or OkCupid? Do people even use OkCupid anymore? I don't even know. But like, are there kind of different themes to these apps? One or more people looking to smash and the other is people looking to be cozy?
I don't think so anymore. So Field, as an example, not a sponsor of this show, not a personal sponsor of me, despite how much
you're an unpaid brand ambassador.
I believe fundamentally that Field is so prolific in Toronto because of me, but that's neither
You're
here nor
welcome,
there.
everybody.
You're welcome, everybody. And also, I'm sorry. Field is a dating app for people who are polyamorous, kinky, otherwise like alt sex lifestyle, queer. So not necessarily just about hooking up. And I think that's the misconception that has invited a lot of people into the Field view who think it's just about a quick smash. And it's like, no, actually, I'm looking for deep, meaningful connections with people who share values with me and orientation with me and require some sifting through. I've also noticed that there are a lot more non-monogamous people on Hinge than the last time I was on it a few years ago. And so that kind of, it's nice to mix it up and have a range. But if you're someone like me, you get to the end of the app.
Do you get like a credit screen, like when you win a video game and a little jingle and music?
They're like, you've reached the end of everyone in your search settings. And I'm like, oh, everyone that I was going to smash, I've smashed, it would seem. And so I have to move. But all this, to backtrack, I think any app can be an app that you use to seek out whatever it is that you're seeking. The part that's important is knowing what that is. And so, for example, you know what? I think we're at the end of our segment.
No, you can keep going. You got like 30 seconds.
I need more than 30 seconds to tell this anecdote.
All right. Well, Samantha Bitty is here, sexual health and consent educator. She needs more than 30 seconds to tell her anecdote about, as he said slowly into his microphone, killing a few seconds of time, about cuffing season and what apps mean what as we get cozy here in the fall. We'll be back with more sex, etc. in a moment. We've got just a moment, so let me tell you the last show is available as a podcast. Just head to www.lastshow.pizza in your web browser. That's .pizza, not .com, or search David Cooper Last Show on your favorite podcast app, and there you can subscribe and listen to the show on demand, on the go, while you're practicing luge or baking a suckling pig. I don't know why you would do that, unless you're feeding a lot of people. Anyway, the Last Show podcast, do subscribe and check it out. Coming up next, more Samantha Bitty on cuffing season. We'll be back with that in a moment.
Want to be part of the Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Insurance may all seem the same on the surface, but having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like getting a speech from your third cousin's +1 at your wedding when you needed a speech from your best man. You wouldn't settle for just any speech, so don't settle for just any insurance. When it comes to getting the help you need, State Farm is the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Please be advised that the following program contains audio content that may be graphic and potentially triggering for some listeners. This content may include descriptions or sounds that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Ooh, we are having fun here with Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator from Toronto, Canada. It is sex, etc. We are talking the things you need to do if you want to change your dating patterns to be more cozy in the fall. It's cuffing season. Are you looking for someone to get more, serious is the right word, but more settled with over the winter months? We were discussing the different methods or different modes of the apps, if that makes sense, the different reasons we use different apps. And Samantha, you had a lot to say about a specific app.
I mean, I feel like I have a lot to say about every app because I've tried so many of them, and it is yeah, I don't know. I think it's like a bottomless thing in terms of criticisms, critiques, observations, questions, concerns, etc. But what I find makes an app effective is being clear about what you're looking for and what you have to give, and being willing to, I don't want to say like cut losses, but some people might think that the advice for cupping season is to broaden your desire profile. Like, something I might not be super into if I'm just looking for something fun and flippant. Maybe I need to be more open to someone that I'm maybe less attracted to in every single whatever it is, right? I think that being intentional and specific is the most loving way we can engage in apps, especially when it comes to, snuggling up. Like, you think about in the pandemic when people, all the quote unquote COVID relationships, or was like, this'll do. I I would invite people to not necessarily take that posture with cuffing season, because seasons, even if something's not meant to last, it can still be meaningful. It can still be fulfilling. It can still be something that you go into open-minded, open-hearted, and can transform into something or not. Like, I think that allows us to have authentic, organic relationships and connections, but also to be present to when something isn't it. Right? I joke about cuffing season and that, like, I always miss cuffing season. But I believe what makes me a good person or a great person or a fun person to date is that I'm really comfortable being alone and I'm okay with loneliness. I'm not just going to fill that void with someone. And so the anecdote I wanted to share is that I had connected with someone, and a lot of times on apps, especially as a non-monogamous person, a lot of people, or just like, in general, people are in like committed partnerships. They have spouses, they have children. And what that generates in these relationships is oftentimes like some hard limits to what a relationship can be. And as someone who doesn't have those limits, I kind of have like a quota for how many of those relationships I'm in, where it can only be exploratory to a certain point. I'm only able to have a certain level of autonomy to a certain point. All of those things create certain limitations to where a relationship can go, how available someone is, all those things. And so I have a couple of those relationships on the go, love them, very fulfilled. Those boundaries are all good with me. But any of my new connections, like, I'm prioritizing folks that don't necessarily have those same limitations, because what I'm looking for from my cuffery is someone who is available to do that type of snuggling and whatever else. And so all this to say, this segment is entirely about me and in my own personal diary about what I'm going through dating. And with the colder months is my advice around being intentional. And again, like I said, being proactive and being clear, like, yeah, like, I'm looking for something X, Y, Z.
I'm looking for a season of Netflix and chill, and focus on the chill. And by chill, I mean don't chill. We want to be warm. We want to be cozy. You were saying earlier, like, seasonal relationships that end. I think that's a mini version of this thinking that, like, oh, a relationship needs to last forever. Otherwise, it's a failure. Otherwise, it was a mistake. Otherwise, it was a bad idea. And I hate that thinking. It's so common, this idea that a relationship should end, or that it goes on for a little bit, but then you're not compatible. Maybe the season changes. Maybe you find out there's something not compatible about you. There's nothing wrong with pursuing relationships like that. I don't know why there's this common view that relationships like that are somehow bad or somehow less than.
Yeah, that duration is the only marker of a fulfilling or purposeful relationship, even though I don't know if we would ever assign that to a friendship, for an example.
No.
Like, when you work at a job and there's someone who's like your work bestie or whatever, and then you leave that job and it's just like that relationship could only exist in those circumstances, you're never like, oh, that friendship was a waste of time. Like, the ways we assign meaning to romantic or sexual connections as though they don't have the ability to show us something about ourselves and others. You will never catch me saying someone is quote unquote wasting my time, or that I wasted my time with a relationship.
Yeah, to say that others waste your time, I think takes away from one's own autonomy, like how they decide to spend their own time. You can end things. You can make decisions about your own time. I mean, all things equal. I'm sure there's situations where people can't, but I just mean generally. And when you say he or she or they wasted my time, you're kind of making yourself as not like an autonomous actor when you say things like that.
Or as though there wasn't something that we were getting out of it. Maybe unbeknownst to us what that thing was. The only time I have more generosity around that phrasing is if someone is intentionally deceptive about what they're looking for. And even then, I can still have the agency to be like, this was a valuable lesson.
Sure. You mean in instances of perhaps cheating or lying or dishonesty. Yeah, you know what, I would agree with you. In those cases, I suppose the frame, wasting my time, is more fair. But all things equal, if the person wasn't like a deceptive individual or a dishonest individual to you, there you're sort of saying, well, you didn't have a choice about how you spent your time?
And also, too, I think that we're able to make space for ourselves and each other to change our minds or to change or just change in general, transform in general. Like I might enter into a connection with someone with the ideals of certain things, right? And we might share those things. But what if something in life happens and all of a sudden, those ideals have shifted? I haven't then wasted someone's time. They haven't wasted mine. Like the ideal, I think, for a relationship is that they get to reveal themselves to us. And so I guess I'll conclude with the last piece of advice around cuffing up, which is that you might have a great idea about what it is that you're looking for. I would suggest against trying to fit someone into that. Nobody is happy when we do that. Yourself, them, having a kind of, again, ideal about what something can be and allowing for something to grow towards that, or just to be honest about when it doesn't.
It's a big topic that you end with, this idea that you shouldn't try to change people. I feel like that could be a great discussion for another week.
I'll see you next week, I guess.
I guess just be mindful of not trying to change people as we enter into the fall, even if you're looking for someone to snuggle and be cozy with. Side note, Samantha, what is your favorite snuggling activity other than smashing? Is it just sitting with a great blanket? Is it reading a book? Is it watching a specific show? What works best for you?
Oh my gosh, I've only thought about penetrative snuggles. That's my favorite thing. It's never watching something because someone's always uncomfortable. Someone's always not able to see whatever it is that we're watching. I have just...
Oh, you do the laptop in the bed?
I'm a laptop in the bed kind of person, yeah.
So what you're saying is you do not care about your neck, is what you're telling me.
Or I care about my neck, but I don't care about the person who's snuggling me's neck as much as I care about my own.
Well, you heard it here first. Samantha Bitty cares more about her neck than yours. She's a sexual health and consent educator based in Toronto, Canada. Samantha, what a pleasure it was having you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, David.
Coming up next, a third of kids do not play outside, do not get outside after school. And common wisdom from people like my mother would say that's a serious problem. But why is that? Well, researchers dug into that and now have shown outdoor play is essential for children's health and happiness. Details after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
In the 70s, 4 young women were found dead. For nearly 50 years, their cases went cold. I'm Nancy Hixt, a senior crime reporter for Global News. In the season finale of Crime Beat, I share how investigators uncovered shocking evidence of a serial killer and hear exclusive interviews with the killer's family. Listen to the full season of Crime Beat early and ad-free on Amazon Music by asking Alexa to play the podcast Crime Beat.
Don't let them tell you you have to change. Just because you feel a little strange.
Breaking down today's chaos with tomorrow's headlines. The last show with David Cooper.
More than a third of children don't play outside after school. Kids these days, and 1 in 5 skip outdoor play even on weekends. And surprise, surprise, a new study says that's a problem for their health and happiness. So why does outdoor play matter to kids? That is what we'll find out with someone who worked on that study. He's a social environmental epidemiologist at the University of Exeter in the UK. His name is Mark Ferguson. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, David. Thank you for having me.
Why the curiosity about kids playing outside? Side note, as I read a summary of your study, I started to feel guilty because I was that kid on my computer every day, hiding from the world after school and on weekends, never going outside. But to the original question, why the curiosity on the importance of this?
I guess it's just, we've seen there's kind of established evidence that outdoor play has been sort of going down over generations, and people quite intuitively think this is good for kids' health and well-being, but there haven't actually been too many studies on it. So I guess my research, I'm interested in sort of nature exposure, and sort of a lot of the time, obviously children in particular, they're playing outdoors. So I kind of, for this study, didn't look at sort of nature per se. I looked at more just directly, are kids playing outdoors, how much, and is it good for their social emotional skills? And we found that it was. So yeah, really interesting.
It is, and I hate that my dad was right to shut off the computer and my mom was right to yell at me to go outside. What's the mechanism? Why is kids getting out there and playing? Like you say, it's kind of intuitive. We think it's good, getting fresh air, going outside, but why is that healthy for kids?
Yeah, I think when we think about this, we kind of don't think about sort of one direct pathway, and sort of think of it as a big combination of things, and trying to unpick what exactly it might be is probably not possible. But I think there's a range of mechanisms. So just the social interaction with peers in particular, but also with parents and caregivers. Engaging in physical activity is good for mental health. And, and also the sort of social interaction that goes on with that. And then there's kind of theories about adventurous play, and how playing and being able to take risks and manage your own risks allows you to sort of develop those coping mechanisms, so sort of psychological theories as well. So yeah, quite a range of things. So.
That is interesting. I think of outdoor play for kids as about exercise, or for some reason, fresh air is good, or seeing trees is good, but your study connects it to social and emotional skills. How do those come into play? Well, when kids play outside, developing social and emotional skills.
Yeah, I think, it is literally just, I guess the nature can be a tool with which to enable social interactions. So again, there are other sort of theories around actual nature exposure and good for your attention and things like that. But on this study, we were measuring just outdoor play. So we don't actually know whether they're in natural environments or not. And they may well have been. But, for this, we're sort of focusing on those social skills. So we measured it in two ways. Looking at kind of behavioral difficulties, and also looking at pro-social behaviors. And in both of those ways of measuring it, we found it was more outdoor play was associated with improved skills in both of those measures.
Do kids from different communities or backgrounds play outside differently, or play outside less or more? Did you find anything like that in your research?
Yeah, so that was one of the key things that we looked at. So the study was the Born in Bradford cohort, which is a big study in Bradford, which is a city in the north of the UK. So what we did is we looked at the sort of white British origin population and the Asian origin population. And we found that there were different patterns of outdoor play, and that when they actually gained the benefits of outdoor play seemed to be different. So from that, we kind of concluded that we need to if we want to increase outdoor play for different communities, we need to make sure that, we're consulting with communities and aligning these interventions with how, the different patterns of use that we're sort of seeing. And one of the reasons we studied that was also because typically in a lot of this research, it's in more affluent, generally more white populations. So, we simply just didn't know whether ethnicity played a role in this at all. So that was one of the reasons why we looked at that.
And what did you find more specifically in terms of ethnicity or different cultural groups?
Yeah, so I think it was on now attested. I think the white British origin children, they saw more benefits on school days. And then the Asian origin children tended to see more benefits on weekends. And I think we didn't have the data on this, but what we know is that a lot of Asian origin children, they go to sort of after school clubs, and that might be the reason why they didn't engage in as much outdoor play during that time, and then they've got those benefits on the weekend. So again, going back to like an intervention, if you're kind of trying to increase outdoor play after school for a population that is already going to sort of after school clubs, then it might not be successful.
Got it. All right, let's talk about what kids are doing when they're not going outside. For me, it was sitting at the computer with dial-up in the 90s. My goodness, I wish I would have had broadband back then, but whatever. What are kids doing? I see young people now just like on the phone, on the iPad, screens, digital entertainment. That seems to get the blame, but is that what's stopping kids from going outside, or is it a little more complicated than that?
I think it's a bit more complicated than that. It's in the media a lot, in the UK, anyway. And there is quite a lot of concern over screen time and the potential negative impacts of excess screen time. So that could possibly be one of the factors. But I think some of the sort of literature around it we found was like, people's perception of safety. So the environments in which outdoor play. So we were looking at outdoor play in streets and gardens around the home, and parents quite justifiably might not feel that their environments are safe for their children to be playing outside. There's just a lot more traffic than there was in previous generations. That could be one of the reasons behind it. So, screens are a part of it, but not the whole picture.
And if kids don't play outside, the stereotype is it'll cause obesity, anxiety, depression. But what are the actual risks if a kid just doesn't get out there on evenings and on weekends?
Well, I guess that's what this measure is. It's a measure of like social emotional skills. And then if you don't gain those social emotional skills during kind of childhood, then they're associated in later life with these sort of adverse, like you say, anxiety, depression, and mental health issues like that. So that's why one of the reasons we think it's important, it's a tool to kind of address these things that are happening later down the line.
I didn't get out much as a kid, and my ex-wife would have you believe I have bad adverse social emotional skills, but that's a conversation for my therapist, not you. Mark, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your study. This has been a great chat, and I guess the short of it is try to get your kids outside.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
All right. Well, Mark Ferguson is a social environmental epidemiologist at the University of Exeter. Mark, thanks again for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Cheers. Thank you.
Forget the wedding guest list with 700 of your mother-in-law's closest friends and a second mortgage for the ballroom. Coming up next, we'll talk micro-weddings. Just a small handful of guests. And, well, a lot of meaning. Better on the budget. And maybe your Aunt Millie, who you've never met, doesn't make the cut. That's right, micro-weddings after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. When the day is done, we're just getting started. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Big weddings, ballrooms, hundreds and hundreds of guests. They've been the standard for weddings for generations, but now more and more couples are downsizing. There are micro weddings, fewer than 40 people, lower costs, and maybe in the end, a little more meaning. I'm here with someone who's an event planner and an event management instructor at the University of Florida who knows a thing or two about micro weddings. Her name is Rayven Crisafulli. Rayven, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, David. Happy to be here.
What is it about weddings that made them so huge and so elaborate in the first place? Is it thousands of years of history? Is it love? Is it the catering industry trying to subtly make more money? Why is the standard like hundreds of people?
Absolutely all of the above. So weddings are a cultural milestone. When I teach event management to my students, we talk about the importance of culture and heritage and how that kind of builds into a couple's identity. So it starts off definitely for a lot of young women thinking about how they're going to have their wedding one day and kind of leading up to this fairy tale experience. But as we're seeing the cost of weddings go up. The last few weddings that I did hit six figures easily. And a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, I need to buy a house, not have a six-figure wedding. So it has turned into a reevaluation of priorities and become more about what fits for the couple. When we design our weddings, we focus on, hey, what fits you guys? What would be meaningful for you and your guests today? It doesn't have to be about what the industry tells you need or how it's supposed to look. It really should be about celebrating this milestone of two people coming together. And that, I believe, is what is driving a lot of this shift.
I reflect on my own story. I had a very micro wedding. 3 guests were there, a photographer, an officiant, me, and my wonderful ex. But in my mother's image, she wanted a wedding with 500 or 600 of only her closest friends. Is it appeasing the family and the community that causes weddings to be so big? It becomes less about the couple and more about like a moment for the family and friends?
Absolutely. I see that driving a lot of the guest list count. When my couples come to me, one of the first things that we work on is how many people are you planning to invite? Because that dictates everything that we're going to decide from that point forward. And when I see their guest list versus the add-ons from parents, usually the parental add-on is a large contingency of that, especially when we're heading into weddings that are 300 plus. And it really does have, besides a financial impact, it really does impact the couple's ability to enjoy their day because we only have so many hours at the venue. Even if we have an all-night venue and we're very lucky, there's just not enough time in the day for everybody to spend meaningful time with the couple that we're celebrating. So it's a different experience when you have a small group and everybody's making core memories with you rather than just being a participant in somebody else's memory.
So is that where micro weddings really are impactful? This idea of like core memories? Like I feel like a group of more than 50 or 60 people, you can't be aware of what's going on with the whole group. But if the group's small and intimate, you can kind of have this shared experience where everyone's aware of everyone, can't you?
Absolutely. We see that a lot more in our smaller weddings. You can fit 50 people on a dance floor and actually engage with a lot of them through a couple hours of dancing. You have time to sit down with somebody at a table or in a lounge chair and catch up with somebody that you haven't seen in a long time. But when we start expanding beyond that 50-ish person, there's physically not enough time to do more than, like, we give our couples a timer when they go around during the reception to say hello to everybody because we only have maybe 45 minutes to an hour to give them, time to do everything else they're supposed to do during the reception. So they've got 2 minutes per table to say hi, catch up with Aunt so-and-so. And even then, it's never enough time. We're having to pull them away. We have to come up with ridiculous excuses of, oh my goodness, I need you over here to fix your bouquet, insert random excuse kind of thing. So it kind of sucks for the couple and the family because there's not a really good solution other than limiting or either turning it into a multi-day affair, which is the opposite of what we're seeing. Instead of just having a micro wedding, we're seeing a rehearsal dinner that is several hours long and then an all-day wedding and then a brunch after and an after party. So if you don't have the funds to extend it into an absolute monster weekend of a wedding, the best option is limiting your guest count.
And even if you do have the funds, like you mentioned, you've seen weddings that have gone up to 100 G's. I'm thinking I could buy 6 or 7 really good motorcycles for that, like really good motorcycles. But there is this benefit of cost, right? Like a micro wedding is going to cost you less. What is the average cost of weddings these days? I know you're in Florida, and I'm sure it varies place to place. But like on average in North America, what would be the average cost of a wedding?
So that's a really hard number to calculate. The closest that we've come consistently is there's a company called The Knot and Wedding Wire, and they are a website where couples who are just engaged can go and find their key vendors, and they are able to track a lot of the data for what the weddings cost through their customers. And their average is showing around $33,000 for a wedding. But that's not going to include the weddings that are not DIY, that have a planner that is sourcing the vendors, that is not utilizing the Knot or Wedding Wire to manage their vendors. I know the weddings that I managed in North Florida, on average, $65 plus $1,000 for a 150-person wedding.
What?
It's a lot when you add it all up.
65 G's? My God. I think my elopement cost maybe $600 or $700, and that was after a little white dress my ex bought. Not important. For people who are interested in not having a wedding that includes 500 or 600 of my mother's closest friends, what do you recommend? Like, how do you recommend sort of approaching a small wedding when the norm is to have a slightly bigger one?
Great question. You're definitely going to need to prepare a statement for why, because that's usually the question that most people get is like, well, why aren't you doing something bigger? So having that kind of in the back of your head to explain to mom, to Aunt Karen, hey, we're prioritizing us. This is what is important to us. This is how we envision this milestone being celebrated. And then there, we like to help our couples focus on elements of the day that are significant, that create meaning for them. So my couples that are foodies, we absolutely have super fun with crazy hors d'oeuvres or surprise moments for dinner. And you can do that a lot more when you have a smaller guest count. Now, there are still challenges to it. There are still costs involved. Like if you're wanting to do a small reception for 40 people, most of the time people are like, oh yeah, I still want some decor. I still want it to look pretty, a certain mindset of aesthetics. And it gets more challenging when you're working with vendors like a florist and she has to order flowers in boxes of 100 and say, maybe you only need 50 roses. So it becomes a little bit more challenging cost-wise for them to break even and still provide the aesthetic that the couple is looking for. So pluses and minuses there, but you can still do a lot. A $2,000 floral budget for a 40-person wedding goes way further than it would for a 100-person wedding, where I can basically get you a little bit of flowers on your archway and your personal bouquets for $2,000.
What about those who feel a little guilt about throwing a small wedding when their family and friends want it otherwise?
Honestly, the drama that I see in planning weddings comes from two sources. One is financial, and two is interpersonal. So when you're dealing with people that have opinions that are not actually the ones getting married, and that, honestly, I've become the mediator in certain circumstances and said, hey, look, I understand this was an important expectation for you as a parent. You had a vision for this, but respectfully, it's not your wedding. And this is what the couple has wanted, and I'm their advocate. That's my job, is to advocate for the couple. So we look for creative solutions, whether that is live streaming people in for the ceremony or for key moments. Other people will have after parties back home where it's much more informal. They have a backyard get together, something like that. But really, there's no way around telling them, sorry, it's going to be different than what you thought.
Did you hear that, Mom? Well, I'm here with event planner and event management instructor at the University of Florida, Rayven Crisafulli. Rayven, thanks for talking to me today. I appreciate you being on the show.
Of course. Absolutely my pleasure.
All right, that's a wrap on our Tuesday night show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, the last show has a call-in number. Call us even when our show's not live. Leave a voicemail. We might even call you back. The number, 1-888-505-6644. That's 1-888-505-6644. I'm David Cooper, and this was The Last Show.
For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac extra value meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.